order since it's a little after time to start,
Okay.
so we can kind of keep on our agenda. Yeah, we have enough people. We actually got a few extra.
Mind if I join up here? I'm gonna take minutes for you.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody else. Why would we
Hey
not
guys,
want
why don't
to
you
join
guys,
us here?
why don't we kind of, if we can move the school board people up this way, why don't you guys join us at the table? That way you're like part of the group.
I'll do it, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying, if the school board people move up a little, so
We got room
like if
for
we get,
everybody, why not?
and then you guys kind of sit over there, that way we're all in a group and you're not, you know, if you have a question, you can hear everything. Carolyn's the only one with her back, had her
I
back.
don't want to move.
No, you're fine. I'm just getting Elise to move up with us. So we usually start with introductions, so I'm gonna start with Carolyn.
Carolyn Partridge, Wyndham.
Auntie Woodward Wyndham.
Amber Burrow, Wyndham.
I mean,
Jamaica.
it's been a long day.
She'll get there.
Are you sure what town you're from?
I know it's it's okay.
Who are
I
you?
already said
I didn't hear
Austin
you.
Townsend.
I didn't hear you. I was like, okay,
Sorry.
go ahead.
We'll get that.
Joe Winrick from Leland and Gray from town of Townsend.
I'm gonna do Jen now
Yeah,
first.
Jen, you wanna introduce yourself?
Jen Carr, Marlboro.
Emily Long, Leland and Gray, Newfane.
Rich Werner from Dover.
Stephen John, Superintendent of Schools. Nice to see you out there.
Laura Sibilia.
Dover.
Alicia O'Donnell, Brookline.
Bud DeBonis, Chief Financial Officer.
I'm Bill Antone, I'm the current principal of Dover, and I'm the future superintendent of the WCSU.
Nancy Dyke, Wyndham.
Jerry Dyke, Wyndham.
Okay. And everybody knows our recording guy. You can't
Rich.
see him on the camera. So, review and approve the minutes from the July 22nd, 2015 meeting. So everybody, those were emailed out. Now, I know there was some stuff going on back and forth.
Yeah, we need to adjust them,
So-
or have a motion to combine them.
So we did not include the
But
thing
they
that you
were
did up
online
top.
combined,
Were they
yes, I
combined
did, I
online?
posted them combined,
So we don't,
Okay,
so we don't,
so we should be
because they
good.
were, because they were that way, it's okay, they're fine.
We should be good. So if I can, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of the July 22nd, 2015 meeting.
So moved.
Okay, Carolyn moves, do I have a second?
Second.
Townsend seconds it. Is there any discussion? Okay.
Yeah, all set. I think just by way of explanation to the public, the concern here was that I had taken minutes recording or notes taking recording of what the board chairs reported about their school districts for values and things they wanted to keep. And that was separate from the minutes that was taken with Allison Hescott. And so we combined those at the direction of the board chair, and that's what was posted drafted. So we still are missing a few comments from some schools, and that's on the agenda here, but we'll proceed on that basis. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, we ran through introductions. Do you wanna, oops, there's a chair over here.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, the agendas are there and the policy if you want to take a copy.
I have all that.
Okay. So, the number 3, we had values, opportunities, and goals, and this was from the board. So, Stephen put together some notes, and I know we've got Townsend here, and I know you met, you told me you were meeting.
We did, on Monday.
So, I think, does everybody have a copy of the values, or does anybody need a copy?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, I only have 2 sets. So Stephen's gonna make some
I'll make
copies.
some copies for you. How many you want? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
An even
I'll take
dozen.
one.
Baker's dozen. Yeah, make a dozen, I would say, sir. Okay, so while Stephen's making that, Townsend was not here at the last meeting, but they've discussed it, and so if you wanna maybe give us what you folks at your board came up with for values and what was
absolutely.
important.
Yep, so a few things. After school activities, we definitely value that as part of the curriculum. Also, we value PE. We've kind of been at the forefront with PE in terms of how much we offer. Physical activity feeds the brain. It's very, very important. So health, arts, music, drama, kind of the enrichment programs, is something that we were very focused on. And something more kind of globally that we looked at was instructional leadership per building. We think that you need to have somebody, a principal, something like that, in every single building if we were to combine at some point in the future. We think that's important. If not that, sorry, something additional to that is if you're a very small school, having the ability to have a dual principal/teacher type role to mitigate costs. And we had a lot of interesting discussion about school choice. Our board kind of went both ways on school choice. We looked at the good and the bad of school choice. The bad being, one of the things we discussed was, what if this were to happen at a high school level? So for example, Bellows Falls, Brattleboro, Leland and Gray, and Twin Valley. What would happen over the next few years? Would one of those schools just disappear naturally? So that was, we kind of viewed that as a negative to the community. But at the same time, school choice can be viewed as a positive. You know, it allows kids that, you know, say a parent teaches in a certain school district, but they live in another. Could that person now go to the other high school or the other elementary school? With school choice, of course, they could. So we were kind of looked at all angles of that. And that was really about it. A lot of it was, the rest of what we talked about was covered by other comments from other schools.
So you were in agreement with some of the stuff from other schools?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any questions or, go ahead. No, anybody have any questions for Townsend? I had a quick one. So when you say you offer more PE, so what does it work out to be per, is it, you know, so much for the higher grades, less for the, and what does it work out to be?
It's between PE and health, it's 2.5 days, 2.5 per week.
Per week?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's split up amongst
Yeah.
the grades?
Yep.
So like if you have a 0.5 PE health teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually had more at one point, but did cut it back a little bit.
As the numbers came down, and so it was more of a, not a budgetary thing, but more of a there was less need?
I wouldn't say there's less need, but just trying to, you know, fit everything in. It was something that we needed to kind of cut back a little bit.
Can I-
Yeah.
Because you asked, it prompted a thought from me. Is that, Stephen, you're the one who has to answer this question. Is Townsend's PE offerings typical across the SU? Are we all, or I should ask.
You're all
not
pretty,
just- He mentioned the numbers. I'm wondering if we're really have varied PE offerings.
Pretty close.
we're pretty close. I haven't got it down to the minute. Of course, the data
That's fine.
submitted by each of the principals on the SEC data would
Mhm.
answer that on the database statewide, but
Mhm.
no variance has been, you know, called to my attention now.
Okay.
It is true that Wyndham is doing a different approach to art and music this
Mhm.
year.
Not music,
I'm
no.
sorry.
Art and library.
Library, thank you. I think that's the only change I see in the present budget that's an indication of, you know, constraints financially.
That's fine. I was just curious whether we were all offering the same PE, because I understand why PE is an issue. And I just,
Yeah.
When
No, I
new-
think at the high school level, I think that's changed. Right now, we're down 20% or so.
On the,
PE.
on the
I
PE
don't think
course
it's
is being
20.
offered, but not,
Right.
yeah, but not the actual minutes or the amount of, yeah. We've cut back on the staffing due to declining enrollment at
Right.
Leland and Gray in a number of areas, including PE.
Anybody else? Not that I want to dominate, but I got one other quick question for you. You mentioned a dual principal teacher role, and I wondered why that came up.
It just came up as, possible solution, if, the school enrollment dropped so drastically. It would just be an option to take on, for the principal to take on additional workload, be the principal / teacher at the same time. I mean, and some principals have done that in some respect already. I mean, Deborah has taken on some guidance work just to help out with budgetary concerns.
Can I ask who does that now, besides Jamaica? I know we.
Jamaica, Wardsboro, and Townsend.
Or is it three that don't have a full-time?
Well, they have a full-time principal by
Full-time.
contract, but the assumption is that, it doesn't mean that they're able to devote their time to being principal 5 days a week, full-time.
That's a
Other
change.
Responsibilities.
That's a change
That's
over the
evolving.
last,
In the case of Townsend, it's been going on for a couple of
2
years.
years.
Wardsboro has been a gradual reduction of days.
I'm not concerned about each individual school. I'm saying, is that a trend that we're seeing in our SU where that's shifting from full-time principal to principal who's taking on other
Yes.
duties beside?
Yeah.
And you think that's to do with declining enrollment?
I think that the boards rightly perceive that they would rather do that than reduce teaching.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the tough choice.
Okay, we had 2 more board members come in after we did introductions. Do you
Yes.
mind just?
Ann Reynolds from Jamaica.
Ken McFadden, Newfane, Newburgh.
Thank you, guys. So we're on the agenda, we're on number 3. Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to make sure I got it. Okay.
I'll go over it with you later.
Yeah, thank
Okay, so we're on number 3, values, opportunities, goals. So we had 2 boards that hadn't reported, Stratton and Townsend. Al was able to give us a good report from Townsend. Thank you, Al. Have you heard anything at all from Stratton?
you. I attended the Stratton board meeting last night. They talked about Act 46 at length. They have a hard time answering the question the same way because they don't have a school. But it's clear that as a community and as a board, they want to retain their extent level of choice, which is now pre-K through 12. Interestingly, they reviewed the preschool students in the town and listened to the residency hearings of a number of parents. They approved 5 preschool tuitions for this year, which is quite remarkable for that town, quite extraordinary. I don't think it indicates necessarily a trend for the future, but it would be amazing if that continued, because that would more than double their student enrollment now, which pre-K through 12 is approximately 32 students. So it's, it's exciting times around, but that's an interesting issue for them. They are going to meet, relative to this issue of Act 46, they're going to meet with the representative, Marty, what's his last name? Martin Nadler from the Winhall Board. The Winhall Board is proposing to Stratton that they form some sort of a combined unit that has pre-K through 12 choice. In other words, there are other non-operational school districts around. The other 2 that were mentioned by Marty to me in another conversation was Sandgate and Ira, both somewhat south of Rutland. And so the trouble that I see with Act 46, or at least the way the law says, is it's pretty hard to imagine they'll have enough of those school districts willing to combine that would add up to 11 or 900 or 1,000 students. That's a stretch for non-organizational school boards.
I don't know.
But
Pretty powerful
So there's
sentiment.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row.
where there's a will, there's a way, right, Laura?
How
I'm
many
not,
total students?
they're meeting on September 10th. That will be a public meeting. If any of you are interested in attending, that will be at the Stratton Town offices. That's where that board meets,
And when was that?
What is that?
September 10th. That's not a board and board meeting, it's just the representative from the Winhall Board meeting with the Stratton Board to discuss the possibilities.
It's my understanding that they're building a school at Stratton, or they're taking the.
Well, okay, since you raised the issue, I do have a brochure on that if you want to see it. The private school of the mountain school at Wynn Hall, which is a private school and has a private board, is proposing to build a new residential school and building somewhat south of Stratton Mountain, south of the Sun Bowl. And they have a brochure about trying to raise money for that and get that built by, what was the date? You remember, Bud? 2017, 18, something like that. Private school.
That'd be private, right?
Yep.
Okay, Carolyn, you had?
Since we're talking about dates, I'd like to let folks know that on September 14th, Oliver Olson is having kind of an informational community forum
Good.
on Act 46 at 6:30 at Bloodbrook School. And I think the speaker, Shep Smith, and gubernatorial candidate, and David Sharp, who's the chair of House Education, will be there. So if people want to
Good.
attend, I think it would be valuable.
So just to
September
repeat,
14th.
that's September 14th at Floodbrook
6:30.
Elementary School, 6:30.
I would just I'm not gonna be able to go to this meeting, but having had a number of conversations, I think it's really important to go, and share knowledge that could be helpful going forward, what the experiences are, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that folks are seeing. I think this is actually a really good opportunity. I think things are pretty fluid. Emily, yes?
Absolutely.
Yep, so I would just really encourage people to share.
Okay, so if we're all, yep, sir.
Just a question on that, so would that be videotaped or?
Yeah,
any-
I think they're filming.
On TV?
I think they are.
I don't know,
can't
but I
guarantee it,
suspect they will.
but I think they are.
That's the night of our meeting, so we wouldn't be able to go, but I'd like to see it. If you're right.
There's gonna be a huge
Yeah.
video library
Herding
of
cats.
Act 46 available.
It's great, it's good.
There's just as a quick aside, so there's, you go online, there's always articles, and our administrator sends us a lot of links. I don't know, I think he gets up at 3 a.m. and searches every newspaper
Yeah.
in the state, in the country.
He's pretty thorough, I
Thank you.
will
So
admit.
I actually put them all in a book, and there's some really interesting things. And what I found very interesting about what's going on throughout the state is there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of people claiming to be knowledgeable that are saying things that other people who are a little bit more in the know are saying, no, it's not true. And, but I think it's just good that there's a lot of, I think it was Windsor, one of them was talking about there's some minutes that we were given at the last meeting from a Windsor South something. and-
Windsor Southwest.
Right, and they're talking about the communication's really important. So even if we say something that's wrong, maybe somebody else will catch it, we could be thinking we're doing something right. But I put them in a book, and I was gonna try to separate that out from like our notes and bring it to the meeting, so if people wanna take a glance through and just see what's going on in some other places. Some of them are kind of political things, they're slamming different people, but it's interesting, they try to make a point.
If you follow Digger, you'll see most of them are on Digger.
Yeah.
Not
but
every one
there's-
of them.
There's a bunch
Not
of other.
everyone, but
Um,
Digger will pick up some.
And I have, what you were just announced, Carolyn, was in the Reformer, I think, because I've got a copy of the Reformer where Oliver talks a little bit, gave a little statement of, like an invitation to people.
Right, it was a letter to the editor.
That's it,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So, there is a lot of neat stuff going on, and I think, and I'll pick on Emily a little, one of her comments had been about the RED study was the communication or getting it out there to people. Did you have some, you thought that was very important to make sure that we're out there, and I know Laura's been fighting for it.
We always felt that the more you could get community engagement in this, and of course, that's the whole reason behind Act 46 was the studies were supposed to include, engaging your community in the conversation. So sometimes it's not easy to get community involved, but I think it's better right now. Can I say one more thing about this? The VSBA is partnering with, I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I just wanted to let you know that it's continuing. The Act 46 implementation project, they're partnering with the Superintendent's Association and VSBA to ensure that school boards have the resources, meaning people and information needed to operate under this law in their SU, and that is still supposed to be beginning September 1st. They've already engaged a number of consultants to help, and there are a list of SUs and school districts around the state who have contacted those organizations and said, we need help, bring it on. So it's there, it's growing, it's building, and so everybody will get the same information. So maybe some of the issues that Rich just mentioned about lack of information and misunderstanding around the law, which is not surprising anyway, will help mitigate, this will help mitigate those problems.
Just remember, Act 68 was only a law for like 2 or 3 years, then the law,
68?
or was
60, and
60,
then 68
and
came
then
in.
68 came out, what, 2 or 3 years later, and it was
Right.
longer than Act 60 to make, and
Yep.
so it's, there'll be some stuff coming up.
Absolutely.
So you and I are gonna work on, now that we got Townsend's, and I guess Stratton's really not gonna submit anything, we're gonna put something together. So for the agenda in the next meeting, we'll have, just where the commonalities are, and if everybody agrees, and that can kind of be like our marching order, so we'll work on that. We'll try to get it out before the meeting so people can look at it, make comments, so we don't spend a lot of time just reading stuff. But I really appreciate everybody working hard on this, because I know some of it wasn't easy.
Were we still gonna talk about it, or, because
We may yet. Our agenda at the last meeting was really full, and people hadn't had a chance to see the questions. They got them out. There may be some additional late comments from Leland and Gray,
so we'll
but
send them directly to Rich.
we can send them directly to
Okay,
you.
and then I'm gonna work with, we'll try to put something together and make it all fit. You guys are kind of, the unique thing about you folks is
Yeah.
you're the only high school, so it's not like we're gonna be able to cut a lot of, combine yours with other stuff.
Right.
So if everybody's good with that, we'll move on to our next topic, which is number 4, meeting with other SUs, invitation letter to be approved. So,
I was optimistic when I said that, but I thought we'd come up with something, huh?
yep, so I only made a few copies, and when I write letters, I don't write very good letters, so I am more than happy to accept criticism, comments, and corrections, and I didn't, yeah, if you wanna make
read
some
it out
more.
loud?
Yeah, just read it out loud.
Read it out loud, okay.
It's not that long.
No, it's not that long. So basically, it's got a date, and it says other SUs, obviously, we'll put their names in. The Wyndham Central Supervisory Union, WCSU Executive Committee was charged at the WCSU annual meeting in May to look into Act 46 and to make recommendations as to how best we can comply with the act and do the best for our students. The WCSU Executive Committee has been meeting monthly over the summer, and as part of our work, would like to reach out to the surrounding Southern Vermont supervisory unions to explore opportunities from working with our neighboring SUs. We'd like to ask if the officers of your SU, along with your superintendent, would be available to meet with our officers and superintendent on, and I just threw a date out there, please, it was just, I picked a date a month away, from 7 to 9 p.m. at Leland and Gray High School in Townsend to discuss any areas of opportunity that may exist. Our thoughts would be that this smaller group could start a discussion. They could be brought back to individual SUs without having so many participants that the meeting would become unmanageable. The agenda could be very generic unless any SU had a specific topic they would like to see discussed. The SU chairs and officers would have input on the agenda with advice from the respective superintendent, and that could be posted a week before the meeting. If you have any other concerns or questions, please feel free to contact. And I put sincerely, WCSU Executive Committee.
Sounds good.
I think that's great.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
The letter is fine, but, so it would be just the chairs of this committee and the superintendent?
Just, what I put was the
Officers.
officers would be the participants in the meeting, but
Right.
anybody could come, it would be an open meeting. It's just, if you have, like, we had talked about trying to invite over to
It would be
Bennington,
crazy.
right, if we had, even the executive committee from all those groups, the meeting would, fill up the movie theater.
How many officers? Sorry.
3.
Right.
Usually there's 3, there's a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. clerk,
Clerk.
sorry. And then a superintendent. And I would hope other people would come, you know, but it would just be that way we could kind of, you know, hopefully get something accomplished.
I heard a call.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry,
I had
you
a
were
com-
next.
I had a comment, just,
Yes.
Thursday, I know you only threw that date
Right.
out, it won't work because, we are not the only ones who are supposed to be attending the VSBA regional meeting that night in Brattleboro. All the rest of the Wyndham County SUs will be doing it, so they'll all be busy that night.
Oh, I wonder if that actually makes sense to tag it onto that, Emily.
Is
there
it
an
goes,
opportunity?
The time is off because it goes from 5 to 8, and so
Yeah.
how do you fit on either end of that? Nobody's
that's
gonna
a-
wanna meet at 8,
8
and
to
no
10.
one can get before 5, so.
And that doesn't
I know.
include the,
And, yeah, Bennington's is September 1st, so.
I mean, but maybe throwing it out as an opportunity, as an option, like earlier, like 3 to 5, just, I mean,
Well, that's
since
fine.
everybody's
I mean,
going to that
I would be
location.
available to do it, but I know people work, and I can't imagine why anybody
Well,
would.
no, I know that too, but since everybody's going, throwing it out as an option.
It's a big night, then.
Yeah,
do we,
I just wanna make sure we're getting the most out of this, that's all. I don't think it would be great to combine the two, because I think it's too much going on in one night. Rebecca Holcomb will be attending the regional meeting again.
trying to think
Might be
of,
helpful to have it after that, in fact.
I'm just, I don't know what date to throw out there, because I don't, maybe, if people are okay with this, if I can, maybe, Stephen, what we can do is find out when other SUs meet.
Why don't we
You
just
know.
stick with our Wednesday nights and say,
Well, I could, except I didn't wanna do the Wednesday night that we were, cause we're
well,
meeting.
there's 5 Wednesdays in the month of September, maybe we could,
What's the fifth one?
the 30th?
Does 30th work for people?
Why couldn't it be within the framework of the next meeting? Of the next executive board meeting?
Well, because it's gonna be more people, and I just thought it would be better as a separate meeting, because I'm hoping that we're gonna be able to keep moving along. That was my only thought, is it's a different group than this group. This is an executive committee meeting, that's just gonna be, the officers and anybody who wants to attend. That was why I was doing it separately.
You think it's gonna take 2 hours?
No, but I figured if I put a time frame in there, that it would keep people would say, oh, good, it's not gonna, you know, I don't have to go there for the night and pack a, you know, lunch in a sleeping bag.
You think it'll take longer than 2 hours? is what you're saying.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Good Lord, no.
but, you know, if you get, say you got 2 people, and I mean, you could have 20 people there at the meeting, and if everybody spoke for 5 minutes, you know, you've killed an hour easily without even doing anything.
so,
And I don't know, yeah.
may I?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Throw your thoughts out there.
definitely want us to do this, definitely want us to reach out, really want other boards to reach out. Very much aware from talking to other boards outside of this SU, some are at their absolute breaking point capacity-wise, in terms of just trying to deal with the situation. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to provide some sort of virtual meetings or tie in to some system. Just to kind of make things a little easier for people to participate. I mean, I've had people say to me how many more, I've asked, you know, as a representative, you know, some of my towns, how can I help you? They're like, how am I supposed to get to all these meetings? Do you know how many more meetings I have now?
So,
Oh,
just a quick
I'm
comment.
just thinking about what you're saying.
Well, and I think, you know, Laura's absolutely right. I think, first of all, that this is supposed to be a meeting, according to your letter, from the officers. I think people are really busy. This is the beginning of a school year. Is there a way for you to just reach out to the chairs of each, and try to find like time that will work, make a suggestion, and then just we'll go with it, and maybe we can provide Skyping option for those who can't. I also would suggest that this meeting is going to have to be really structured in light of the issues that people have with time, so there has to be specific agenda and goals for the meeting, what we're trying to do. We just shouldn't go and have a dialogue, because that won't help anybody, I don't think. but that we should talk about what we want to get out of this meeting.
I do think it's critically important looking around and again, having a lot of conversations throughout southern Vermont with folks on education. I am seeing a lot of people looking within their SUs and not looking outside.
It seems like a lot of people are circling the wagons and just trying
Sort
to
of.
make it work within.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been.
Well, that's why we said we're gonna reach out.
Right. So how about if I do this, if everybody's good with, good with the basic concept, if you want to allow your officers, myself, Emily, and,
Or just you,
or just me, I don't care,
whichever.
to make contact, with the other ones and just try to set a meeting up, get an agenda started and get it around, and then, everybody will know about it as soon as we get it set. It obviously has to be warned because it is kind of a subcommittee of a committee, so it still is a public meeting, it's still gonna be warned, it's not gonna be, behind closed doors or anything.
To some extent, I would suggest to you just to go a little bit further ahead than maybe this regional meeting and pick a place. I mean, at some point, you probably will have to put a stick in the ground and say, here's when it is.
Well, and
Well, he put Leland Gray on
And-
here, but, which is central to everybody for the most part. But if
except
we-
for that side.
Well, right, but if we, actually try to link, which I'm assuming Rich will do that and suggest that, the prior to, the regional meeting, that would have to be held at Brattleboro, because that's where that regional meeting is, the VSBA regional meeting. You couldn't ask people to travel from one to another. So if he puts that in there as an option from 3 to 5, or whatever.
So what I would do is that third paragraph, I would just put, here's a suggested date. We've also wondered, would people be interested if we could link it to that meeting? And then put that in the letter and just see what we get for responses. And then Stephen will help me with some phone numbers and I'll make
Yeah,
some.
again, the suggested date is gonna be what, you think?
September 30th. But we can also see if we can tie it in with the VSBA meeting, if people have interest. If people
Right.
say, no, it's gonna be a killer for us, or just way too much,
It'd be a 5-hour meeting, and
yeah.
So,
But they do feed you at the VSBA meetings, don't they?
there is about half an hour to eat. The meeting will
they
start
serve
during the
beer.
eating.
they unfortunately do not serve
Oh,
beer,
okay.
so that's not.
And they will be at the high school, so that would be really bad.
But anyways, so is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, so by consent, there's no objections? Okay, so we'll work really hard on getting this and then getting some input. And, I think the big question here is just, is there any interest in people looking outside their supervisory union? And then how, if there is, how do we do that? Is that good? Pardon?
I said I think it'll be telling to
Can I-
see who responds.
Yeah, yep.
Can I ask a question? So, I mean,
You
I
can
think
ask a lot. I
absolutely
don't know if we can
that's,
get an
yeah, I
answer.
know, well, I think absolutely that's the right thing for us to do, but, we can ask that question, but we could also at the same time make a statement. So, do we actually think it's important?
Do we as a group think it's important to look outside of Wyndham Central?
We already talked about that, and we
Yeah.
did.
But everybody's still good with that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in talking to people, though, I think it kind of changes, there's, so we actually want to
Right.
talk to you as opposed to, do you want to talk to us?
I thought that was what we had agreed on, but if I'm wrong,
Just
I
clarify.
hope that we will clarify that, because I thought that was what we talked about.
No, I believe we're good with that. I mean, that was the idea behind doing this letter
There
was,
was disappointment that we hadn't received the same letter from others when we had that conversation.
okay.
I mean, we're on the boat,
I
right?
think we
If we're-
have to.
Well, I think a lot of other schools, a lot of other areas have not really, I mean, they kind of took the summer off from,
Yeah, it sounds like
Mm.
that.
and I think that's a reason why too. And then, again, I think there's there's information out there and there's some confusion and, I think everybody's trying to get it, figured out in their own heads a little bit. Hopefully that's happening. Yeah. And, we may think we have it figured out, we may be totally wrong, who knows?
We don't have it figured
No, we won't.
No. Okay, if we're all good. So, some of us traveled to Most Peculiar on August 7th. And it was an interesting ride. We talked about relocation camps out in the Midwest, and we talked
Yes,
about
we did.
wars, and we talked about schools, and we talked about history of Wyndham Central, and how old people were. I wasn't the oldest person. Made me feel good.
Really?
Well, Stephen
Just
wrote
kidding.
with us.
I'm here.
Oh, so you must have talked.
I can always take the lead on that one.
And poor Bud and the other gentleman from Newfane got stuck in the back of my wife's car. It was like riding the way back of the school bus. Every bump we hit, their heads were hitting off the ceiling.
Luke Stafford.
Yeah, it was not by accident, the two shortest people were in the back.
And then the people with the long legs got the middle row, Joe and Steven. So anyways, we went up there and we had some questions that you folks had given us. And we actually asked most of them. So I don't know, Laura was there, Steven, Joe,
Bill
Bud, Bill,
and Luke.
Luke. Luke isn't here. And Luke was from Newfane. So I don't know if any of you wanna Joe, you wanna start off with what you took away from it?
I thought it was a valuable trip. I mean, we did get some questions answered. You know, the really specific questions, you know, for instance, number one, yes, you know, Acts 153 and 156 are still in play. You know, we got answers on the specific stuff. Nobody really wanted to make any recommendations about what we should do.
Rebecca did.
Well, that's true. But most
did
people
she
ducked
say?
that question.
Yeah, what'd she say?
So my question to Rebecca was, you were the benevolent dictator of Wyndham Central now, a position I've always wanted but never achieved. And I said to her, you know, or to you folks, because there was finance people there, Brad James was there, Altimus,
Vaughn.
Von Ultimus. Yeah.
Stephen Dale, the chair of the executive director of VSBA.
and the new executive
Cole Mason, that
director.
was represented from Bisbee.
And actually it was Secretary Holcomb that took the, you know, the lead.
A bunch of people declined.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're
And
right, she did.
She said, what data, she said we should look at our data to consider options, and we should be looking at it a 10-year horizon, not simply surveying the next few years. And she shared we should look at Leland grade data as a snapshot. She told us where to go, and indicates declining enrollment, increasing costs, and phantom students. Is that sustainable? And that should be kind of framing our question. But it really wasn't an answer. I mean, it was not like, what do we do? It was what we could do to get to where we,
Did
right.
we go up there to ask, to get them to tell us what to do?
Well, no, I was hoping they would give us
Hope not.
some ideas.
Would've been interesting.
How does her counterpart, what does the 10-year horizon look like for the economy? For
Yeah, we didn't ask that. But I always thought
Kinda
about you.
helps, you know.
And I think I
You
did.
wanted to be an economist too, right?
I think I did mention your comment about, you know, if the economy was booming and things were flying, we wouldn't be having
Yeah.
these
No
discussions.
conversation.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. Sir.
Oh, no.
I interrupted you.
Oh, you're fine, interrupt. Yeah, there was nuts and bolts things about how the study committees are gonna work, how the study grant works. You know, it was a worthwhile meeting. You know, the questions that kinda came up through the thing got answered. You know, the other one, you know, the question about equity, about. Did you like that answer?
We don't know what you're talking about.
Laura was,
Yeah, tell us.
asking where equity was defined. And the answer was that equity was defined locally.
Okay.
I think the Brigham decision says differently.
Yeah.
That was
That-
just.
These
the
are,
answer.
Isn't
these
that
were
how
the
Act
write-ups.
60 and 68 came about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all parties emphasize looking through the prism of equity, quality, and sustainability, especially through the world, through the world of the student, or, you know, keeping the students at the forefront, which I think is one of the things we kind of set off right in the beginning. The second one is about looking at your 10-year horizon, looking at your data, looking at your numbers. The accelerated conventional merger options allow for tax incentives and must be reviewed by the State Board of Education prior to a vote of the electorate. What was interesting, which I kind of never thought of, but it should have been in my head, is, you know, I was getting excited about, wow, you could save 30 cents if you can get one of their things done, you know, in the next year and a half or 2 years. Well, it really isn't 30 cents off your current tax rate. What it is you're gonna be a melded district, Emily's shaking her head, she heard this too.
Yeah.
And
I'm nodding.
They brought it in, you're nodding. And I didn't realize it, but what they would do is like, so say, just to use Marlborough, Dover, Wardsboro, and Halifax became a district. And then we were able to meet all the requirements and get that 30-cent thing, and we had enough students. It's really not 10 cents the first year off our current tax rate. It would be 10 cents off the tax rate that would be established for our district, for the combined district.
Which is the same as Act
Right.
153 too.
So, and you know, I never looked into Act 153 that much, so I didn't realize that. I'm thinking like, wow, if every district could save 10 cents, but it really isn't. It's off an unknown tax rate that would have to be kind of try to figure it out ahead of time.
Well, we did figure it out
Mhm.
when we were looking at the red through 153,
How
156.
did it come out versus your other?
You have to go back and look. I can't
Yeah, I'd have to
remember.
go pull a red.
Some were up, some were down. It varied from town to town. I just can't recall what they were.
And
It's
then
online if you want to look.
the group of people that we went and spoke with encouraged our supervisory union to hold community forums, create options for consideration, and take a long-term view to creating solutions. It's, you know, not just something to get us by, you know, for the next few years, but it's, you know, look out 10 years. And
So Rich, let me interrupt, just point out the public too. You can go online to WCSU website, and under boards, you will see WCED or Red Study Committee, and that's where you would find the actual agreement or the articles that were previously, and the report that previously projected those tax savings based on that, the terms of the Act 153.
But
yeah.
it's important to note that those are like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
So
they're
they would
old.
not relate to
Yeah.
today's tax rates. They've changed a
No.
lot since then. I'm sure the numbers would look different today.
So your point was that it's figure outable,
It is. and
not
there's
that
there's
we know the rates.
Right. And actually, the state, Brad James has come up now with the spreadsheets and the tools to make comparisons over time. We haven't explored the utility of those yet, but they are posted. They are available to business managers and superintendents that are asked the tough questions, or the consultants. So I mean, we have to commend the state for coming through on that, that important part of.
Stephen, was that
solving the
that
problem.
5-year history that
Yeah,
we got it
and the
attached on?
future.
Website.
yes.
Yeah, I haven't looked up in detail, so don't pin me down about exactly.
Okay, so I looked at all those spreadsheets that he
Yeah.
sent. It's all history. There's
Oh, it's
no future.
it's
I mean,
history, not the,
so you
not
may-
the future.
right, so you may
Okay,
have
so we
something
need
that I
to
don't
get
have, but
something for the future. Did you look sufficiently to know? You wouldn't know, yeah, okay.
that's all.
We're awaiting the questions before we get too, you know, excited about it, but,
Were those the numbers where in other words, every district, for example, say, if we went into the red, where the lower cost per pupil towns, I'll just throw it out there, we're flipping the bill for the higher cost towns?
yeah, not
Because that's basically what that was.
Yeah, and initially, the tax rates are quite disparate, different, and then over time, over 5 years, they get to being pretty consistently the same.
And when we
And
say
that's another way-
consistent, when we say consistently the same, what we mean is the people that
Have the lowest rate.
have the
will end
lowest
up-
rate
will end up with a
I
higher
wind
don't
up
rate.
think we
paying
can
more.
speculate about that until we see those numbers.
Well,
honestly.
he's reflecting on the red study.
Well, that's it, if it's going along the same lines, it's gonna be
I'm
the
not sure
same.
every school district fell under that description. It may have, but I don't really think it did.
Well, I commend the public to looking at the actual study before we try to recollect it from memory here. Don't have a copy to refer to.
Here's a
Didn't
WCSU
anticipate the
study.
question. There you
Is
go.
this it?
Yep.
I do have, we can make copies for people and hand it out
If you
after
don't
the
want
meeting.
paper copies, it's right online.
It's online, okay. So there was 4 questions that we had in the minutes. So one is Act 153 still being considered after Act 46, and we found out it was. Definition of geographic isolation, small school support. And she said the state board still has to set guidelines by 2018, is my note. Does Act 46 define education equality? And we were told it does not, but something education quality but mentions educational quality standards. And the what suggestions you have as group for RSU, the big, I put in kind of bigger letters, collaborate, so that, was kind of the answer. Those are kind of the down and dirty responses we got from them. They did a little bit of more of a review, and Emily was making a comment that there's a whole bunch more stuff online now.
It's on the Agency of Education's website. There's a big link to a page full of documents that
You
refer
can-
to.
that you can
There's
use
a lot of stuff on here now.
Yeah.
Questions and answers,
City grants,
details.
fact sheets, timelines.
I did copy all the board members, the two things from that I downloaded. That was the
What's this thing?
directions
It's
for
the
a study
Agency of
and the application for
Education
study.
Website, and it's Act 46 laws.
No, I'm trying to find it.
If you go to their homepage and then go to laws and regulations, 2015, Act 46, notification, there is a lot of resources in here. If any of you who are sitting on this committee, you really ought to go into this page, it'll take you a while. But it even gives sample articles of agreement from school districts that are going through the process, or have gone through the process. They've even got Mountain Town Reds on here, Chip Minis, and others that are working on it now. Essex isn't on here yet, but Essex is moving forward.
And I'm not sure, and there's just so much stuff, but there was this thing that went out, Act 46, it's got
Oh, that's a
conventional
question.
mergers and accelerated mergers, and it's questions that you can go through to answer. Did everybody get this? This came through
I don't know
email.
whether Steven sent it to us or someone sent it to us, but I don't find it.
Steven said that.
It's on here too, I think.
to that on that same page.
I think it's on here, yeah.
Okay. And then there was a study grant application, and talks about submitting a grant if you want to do a study. And then the other thing I had was, there was a memorandum from Rebecca Holcomb called Intra-District Reconfiguration. And I found that kind of interesting, because it kind of talked about, how you can reconfigure a district. And that would be really good reading for people. So I've got just a couple of these up here, so if you want a paper copy, because I can't do the
This one
computer.
is on here, it says Act 46 criteria accelerated mergers, just like John just said, it's on
Yeah,
that website.
they have conventional
Yeah,
and
there's several,
accelerated.
there's several different,
Right.
there's conventional, there are several worksheets on here. And they're under guidelines for implementing Act 46 measures.
I have that too, and then we've got this, Act 46 timeline. So those are kind of 4 good documents. If you're not familiar, didn't see them, or couldn't get them online, let us know, we'll make you a copy. I need to see stuff on paper. I have trouble going, because then I get lost and can't find it again, and I'd spend more time trying to
The
find
good
it.
news is it's all on one page,
Okay.
links to it, links to all this are on, literally on one page,
I'm
if you don't want paper.
I'm sharing this timeline with the boards as I meet with them. I think Townsend, did we discuss this Monday night, or am I just remembering Stratton last night? Anyway, I'll try to get that around to everybody. I'll make copies of this. It's a simple timeline that shows you different levels of Act 46 implementation.
And it's right here.
Yeah. And here's the study grants instructions and the actual application.
I get that.
That makes, that's why you and I get along so well. You like paper, I don't want paper.
Can I ask a question? Was there any discussion or any talk about merging supervisory unions at all when you were up there?
No, the comment she made was, I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, was, that there's, I forget how exactly she put it, but she said, use your data to look around and see what see what's available to you, keeping in mind what's best for you, for the students. And I don't remember anything specific about supervisory unions, but one comment that was made is, no matter what we decide to do, that isn't the final decision. The final decision goes to the Board of Ed. And they have to, either bless it or not bless it. And so, I was thinking to myself, then why aren't we meeting with the Board of Ed and saying, what kind of things would work for you? And then another one of these articles somewhere, somebody wrote kind of like, it was more of an editorial, I thought, scathing about the Board of Ed declined to kind of give any guidance at their last meeting. They want to do some more research or look into it. So that was the only kind of Yes.
I would add on to that. I'm very concerned about boards making a lot of plans, SU's making a lot of plans, and then having the state board come in at the last minute, which we did ask about, we had a conversation about. And
It actually happened to us, under the red.
Yeah.
We had approval by the state board, and then they withdrew their approval and made us modify. It happened.
for me, that was probably the most useful thing going in, because there's a governance committee on the State Board of Education that's forming, or that has formed,
It's already.
that is really starting to try and work through these things. And so what Rebecca had said is, if you get to some trial kind of agreement for your, what are we calling these things? I don't know. Agreement, district
Like a rough
agreements, whatever they are, the agreements that we make within that, you
Or-
can,
You mean the articles of agreement?
yes, there you go.
Articles of
Thank you.
agreement.
So many words, I can find my
I know.
head.
That's not a new one though, thank
Yeah.
God.
That you can run it by them. Like, we don't have to wait, we don't have to get to
Right,
the
we can
end
get-
like
that's
that. Like, we can get stuff to them and say, we need some feedback. And I actually, if
They
we
encourage-
actually start proposing things, I really hope that this board will do that.
Just so you know, they encouraged that before. It wasn't, it was a legal approval, it was approval by a legal entity that changed their mind when they were, had nothing to do with us. The state board actually did at the time encourage us to, in fact, because Stephen Morse, who's chair of the state board, lives in one of the 5 towns that were having the conversation. He participated and wanted to stay involved so that they could help us if we were heading down a path where we wouldn't be able to get approval. So I think that's good advice.
Well, and I'm concerned about other people around us
Yeah,
also.
absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
I actually represent towns in another SU as well. And
Yeah,
so
but
making
right.
sure that we, that people are feeding in, because I am really a little concerned
Totally agree.
that nobody's looking over the top of this, and that, people are doing the best they can. I don't think, I don't feel like there was a public clamoring for this to happen. I could be wrong. People are doing the best that they can to try and implement this, and that over-the-top piece has me a little concerned. And so I was really happy to hear Rebecca say, let's try and, get some early feedback on things, which I would encourage us to do, for sure.
And she also said at the beginning of the meeting, they've learned a lot of stuff from different concerns. I mean, she didn't say anything specific, but she said the meeting, I believe she said the meetings were just as, it was helping them too,
Mhm.
hearing, different concerns. We're running a little over on that. If there's anything else, if there's nothing else on that, one of the things on the trip back, we were talking about, I mentioned is there a chance that we could do something accelerated if we wanted to, all give up our choice, those that have choice, and become one big supervisory union, or if we want to do some other form. So we were talking about maybe some kind of like Doyle type poll, and everybody that goes to town meeting, there's a Senator Doyle that every year puts out a poll, and he's got like 10 or 12 questions. Usually the representative from the area will bring it down, and I remember one year was, what do you think about legalizing marijuana? What do you think about education? What do you think about our economy? And we didn't know if maybe that was something that we could think about working towards for, like, at town meeting. Have some questions that we can, give the same questions to every town meeting, and just, let people know this is an informal poll, but this is, here are some questions. The other part of that, though, is we need to give people enough of an explanation, so that, or make the question so simple that, it doesn't need much of an explanation, because, you can't just ask somebody, do you think Wyndham Central should combine with Brattleboro? And people are gonna say, what does that mean? But I don't know if there's some stuff out there, so I was hoping that maybe we could, people could think about that, and for the next time we meet to discuss our Act 46 stuff, if you have some ideas or thoughts or opinions, we could bring that up. I don't know if anybody has very strong opinions now, and
I think it's a great idea, but I think it's very important that we be very thoughtful and careful about the questions.
and that's what I'm saying, is I I would like to think about it now, because I don't think it's something that, you know, one of us can do on our computer an hour before.
Right.
And we need, and if people start thinking about it now, it's something that maybe we could put together, one that we can all agree with to present at our meetings. Everybody has town meeting, right? There's no town in Wyndham Central that,
Maybe we should try and collaborate on this poll outside of RSU. Maybe we could do it on
Statewide.
values.
yeah, and that,
We do the door, but what, that's what he's talking about.
Wouldn't it make sense if this is a state initiative to have it be the same across the state? Almost like a
I
referendum
feel like
question.
they've already
that
done
you-
that, like.
yeah, I think it would be hard though, because some districts are pretty easy to, you know, I mean, when you look at like the accelerated, thing there for the big tax break. I mean, one of the things that they did say is that was kind of set up for some specific areas that were already in a process. So I mean, I think they were moving towards that anyways, and I don't know if they would change their mind because of that. But I thought it'd be good just for us, because we all think we know what our voters want, but, you know, in honesty, I mean, I think Leland and Gray probably has the most representation at their meetings, in public. I mean, we don't get a whole lot of public at our meetings. I don't know if other boards do, but,
And I think if people know about this beforehand, you may see a way bigger turnout than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And I think
We
it's
always
hugely
hope that-
important that people in the town
We
have a
always
vote
hoped
and
that
say.
for the red too, and that didn't actually pan out.
No.
how did it work?
I
when
don't
we
know,
had
I
the
feel like
town
this is a
meetings?
little more drastic and different though.
But I still, the majority of
We'll
people.
vote on solar, everybody will show up.
Yeah.
But they only showed up when we were voting, they weren't showing up at your meetings where you were, I mean, I'm sure you had some people coming, but I mean, they come at the end, they don't come in the time when you really need them to
Right,
make
when you have
decisions.
four members of the public coming to get informed, and then
Right.
300 people coming out to vote.
That's typical, and I think that's why it's so important that we know how we're gonna create the outreach, because people don't have time to do meetings, that's the problem. And I think that's why Laura's
Just
pushing
put
to
it
have
in a
these
possible
meetings
vote.
online.
Warn it as a vote, everybody.
Well, the other thing too is in your questions, you could give a little bit of the background in your question, you know, and just don't shoot the messenger, but I'm just throwing one out, like, Act 46 is requiring us to do something, you know?
Yeah, I mean-
What do you wanna do?
Well,
You know,
that's-
hey, here's A and here's B type of thing. I mean, that's, I know, it's a really lousy one, but it's just an.
It would be really hard, I think Carolyn's absolutely right, we have to be
Right,
very
start.
careful about those questions. This is the other thing to keep in mind,
Right.
Is there any way
The
to do
timeline.
a mailing?
because
I know that's a lot and that's a lot to
Very
ask, but
expensive.
an
We
informational
mail.
mailing?
Well, you know, if we got our act together though, could we get it together enough to go in the town reports?
Right,
You know,
something where
would people be able to get them in their town reports?
Probably.
I don't know if those, like, I know Dover doesn't mail
we're
town
mailing,
reports out.
we're printing less and less at Leland and Gray because people don't pick them up.
And, you know, we could definitely make it available on the websites, you know, in Wyndham Central and each of the different schools. And, you know, we could get some little publicity maybe from the newspaper that this is out there, you know, if you wanna, you know, weigh in on it, you know,
Can I just say
yeah.
one more
Say
thing?
lots of
I
things.
mean, I have absolutely no problem with outreach. I think the more outreach we do, the better. The more feedback we get, the better. I think we need to be finding any creative way to engage in the communities. But I do know from my experience with the RED, the WCED, that people expect us to do the work. It's the same experience you had with your solar project down there. They expect you to do the work. They're gonna be there as long as they have the information. They'll be at the meeting to vote. But we can try as hard as we can, and we probably will, my guess is we'll probably be somewhat disappointed that we can't get people to come to meetings.
Well,
It's really hard.
I'm
to
gonna
get people
say
out.
that if you, know, I mean, I think the red was a lot of the Leland and Gray towns, right?
It was only.
It was only the Leland and Gray towns. So I would say that the towns that are not Leland and Gray towns,
This is
have.
different.
Right, so I think that it's probably gonna be really, that those people have much more volatility potentially going on here.
We had a lot of them.
Right, well, I mean, I think in
Plenty of
terms of.
volatility.
Lack for volatility.
You know, do you wanna give up choice, is really the question, for those towns, as opposed to, right, so, I mean, I think that there actually will be quite a bit of public
Yeah,
input
when
on
you
that.
Or do people want choice? Yeah, I
Right.
think there's a lot of
Right.
debate about that, and people are very passionate about that, and I
Yeah.
think you're gonna see a lot more turnout.
Yes.
I think people don't unless you're really following or reading this, you're not understanding the timelines
and the
how this
implications,
is coming. And I think that's important to, the first step is to get people educated on it.
Right.
I think we should, Stephen, if you could send that link to that website on the AOE to all school board
Already
members and maybe post it,
I think I already did.
Yeah.
the link to that page?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it came with,
Okay.
the document that you could have printed, I have a copy of it here, the directions for instructions for Act 46. I attached two things that I printed from that website, but it also has the link there on that website.
But I mean, what Ann was saying, I think, if we had it available for people, pointing them to it on our website or something, that would help too.
Or maybe even, a lot of people have open houses coming up. Can we bring that up during the open house? Here's the
Well, I
link.
think
And it
it's
doesn't
gonna-
mean people are gonna go home and do it, but at least I would feel better about it. Feel better about making those decisions
I
if they've
think-
had the opportunity to.
But
at
I
least
think
look
it's
into
gonna
it,
be important for the individual boards
put
to
it out.
get to their people,
Their town.
however they need to in
Right.
their town.
Yes.
So, at the open house, make it available, make paper copies available from the taker, make a piece of paper that has the website. Maybe include, the website to where our meetings are going, and you can, tell people, do you have a newsletter that goes out to your parents, do you
Or
have,
on cable,
right, do you have, pardon?
cable access, watch.
Yeah, you can watch us online.
Well, some people
And-
don't know that this is online either. This really, we need to get these videos, I don't think they're up on the WCSU website. And so we really have to get them up there, I think that would, and then send that link out to
I
all
think
the
we just have to
boards.
send the link, we don't have to have it
Right.
that on our website, we just have to have.
Right.
I think,
Well, if there's a good place, I mean, if we have other information about Act 46, if there's a place for people to go,
so we
like
could
a
are you
page.
suggesting putting a page on the website like
Yeah.
we did for the WCED?
Yeah.
Maybe Stephen,
Yeah,
you could do
here's the
that.
link to the videos,
Act
here's the link to
46.
the
And have a- and
AOE.
then going
It-
to pop
it'll
up
take a
that
bit,
pops up
but
if
we'll
we
get
the
it.
weather report.
Okay.
Anything else? And anything else.
Yeah, we got it.
So how about, Stephen's gonna work with Matt, no,
This.
Well, I've got it up on my
as long as it's
website.
down on, as long as it's up by
But
Saturday.
it doesn't
not
need to
hard to
be,
do.
but we're not suggesting to do something like we did at the WCED yet. It's just larger set of place where people can go to one spot for the links to things. And I think that's probably, just a
Yeah, and
single
if we
page.
make
It's pretty
decisions,
simple.
we could post these values up there, right? Someplace so that people have a,
Oh, there could be a place
could
to go
put
to the
minutes.
minutes in the, yeah.
Right.
So I think that's all doable. Is everybody good with
The
that?
problem,
Then we
the
can
problem
start.
with putting them in the school mailers is you have a lot of residents that don't have kids in the school, and they, right, and they actually
They're
feel
involved.
that they're being, you're being prejudiced against them because they don't have kids in the school.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that
I
I think
no,
it's
you
up to
understand?
the board to get it out to,
Yeah,
it's.
you-
it's-
Right, right, but I'm saying
it's
if you just,
residents.
because we've run across that where you have, town members that don't have kids in the school districts anymore.
And, the other thing too, I mean, again, I think we also have to be aware of the fact that, we're doing everything we can, but we're not gonna go door to door, say to people, do you understand this?
I
But
agree with you.
I think people need to take a little responsibility, but, if you could talk about it at any meetings you have, or, let the selectmen know, and
Yeah,
it can be
right.
posted at the town office, I think that's.
Leave some at the town office, if you do it, I'm just saying, if you do it in the school newsletter.
But
Put
that's, I
some
was
out
just
at
saying.
the
it's
town
another
office,
It's just
or-
one, it's just one
One
option.
of many
Yeah.
options.
I think talking to the select boards makes a lot of sense.
We're
Having
letting them
put
be,
there,
I mean, in Dover, we're gonna be meeting with our select board in the middle of September, just to kind of have a discussion where we're at, and, because they've always been a participant in where we're going. Laura doesn't know that yet, so she looked at me funny. But, I think it's just important to get that out there, so
She does
do everything you can to get it out there. I'm going to move on to, so we'll work on that survey, since everybody seemed to be in agreement, so if you have any
Who's working on
thoughts.
it?
We're gonna discuss at the next meeting, people need to think about it, and we'll spend some time forming it, starting it at the next
Okay.
meeting, which would be in October,
Just suggest we be very careful about that, since we're
the
not,
wording.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
not, the wording comes after what we decide what we're trying to get. We have to-
Yeah,
we need to know what we're trying to
Right.
find out, put some parameters around it, what are our goals for the survey?
Right,
It's
so
not
that's,
just as
that's
simple
our
as coming up with
discussion.
questions, yeah.
If we can have our goals, that should hopefully lead to questions that can lead to what we put down. We'll see how it goes, maybe it'll be a dumb idea in a little while, and we'll decide to do something different. Okay, so number 6 is need for consultant technical support for the study, resources for the study, possible action, motion. So Emily announced earlier that VSBA, VSBIT,
ESA.
VSA, and the principals too?
No.
Nope, not, the principals didn't have anything to do with it, sorry, Bill.
They've got a lot of other things on their plate.
So they're working on bringing in some consultants. A lot of people signed up, and Stephen has put our name in that we would hopefully like to find one.
Right, the thing is that we moved to a next step, just to call your attention, the reason I sent you this link, the directions for an application, and the application is if we really want to have something happen, we have to be prepared as a board to commit to an application and actually fill it, out. I mean,
An application for.
there are a lot more people that are talking about wanting a study than actually, they are doing some strong, some.
There are a
permanent
number of
commitment.
people on a list,
That's right.
and if we're not on that list, we're way down. So did we make a decision? I thought we made a decision. We're
Well,
gonna get on the list.
I guess you're missing my point.
No, I'm asking.
I know the board has already made a decision.
We
The
did?
next step is to fill out the application. That's how you're gonna get the next thing to happen. And in order to do that, you have to know what the instructions are and what questions you have to answer. So, it's just not a matter of me calling up and saying we want somebody. I mean, I've done that, but.
So the study's gonna help us determine what we need to do. We just had some questions over
We
here.
have to get
What
it-
exactly
we
is
have
the
to-
study?
Apply for the study.
Yes, if we
So
want to
that's a
get
different thing
funding,
than
we
getting-
need to apply for the
It's
consultant.
different
to
than
have our
getting the
act together.
consultant.
Okay,
There are
that's-
two different organizations you're talking about.
Okay, well, yeah, hang on a second, folks.
Well, then I don't know what I'm talking
Okay.
about. Emily.
Let's not get there.
This?
Let's just, everybody hang tight for a second. Okay. We're not sure, I don't think anybody here is yet ready to say we need to study anything specifically.
Right.
So I don't think we can fill out to get a grant from the state to pay for a study yet, because we don't know what we want to study. We don't know if we want to study one big district, a bunch of little districts. We don't know if we want to break ourselves up or break somebody else up. And so I don't think we're yet anywhere near the place where we can apply for a study grant. So anything that we do, is going to be funded by Wyndham Central for the time being. Are we all good on that, or am I not right?
Well-
And that's based on the application? that you-
Well,
They have to, they
So-
want more specifics?
So here's,
right, the study grant application has,
What are we
Can I-
studying? What's the
Yeah.
budget?
Oh,
okay.
so
Well, then why are we asking
to
for
fund
that?
the study, if you're going to hire a consultant to help you move forward with your study, this is what happened, I'm just repeating what we did with our red. You need the grant to pay for the consultant, right? But the process of getting a consultant and trying to make sure that you have a consultant that works very well for your area, because every area isn't the same. And there are quite a number of consultants out there, and I would hope that we would be able to meet with someone if we're going to hire somebody to work with us and say whether this looks like it's gonna work out, find out the scope of what the whole thing was. That's where I thought we had made a decision that we weren't going to fill out the study grant application, but we were going to contact those who are running the Act 46 implementation project, to get our name on that list, get them to send someone down here, I think the process is to match supervisory unions or areas, regions, whatever, with consultants, and then we get to say whether this consultant seems like they're gonna work for us or not. And then we get more sense as we're working forward, what we wanna do, and then you fill out the study grant application that pays for this.
Are we gonna look at all kinds of different options? I mean, just
That should be part of that part before we fill out the study grant
But you better
application.
do it before December, right?
There's some grants that will expire after December, some study grants, but I don't think we're ready to yet apply for a grant, because I don't think we've narrowed our search yet. I think what we need to do is, we need somebody to help us kind of, no?
No, I'm
Oh.
looking at this doesn't,
Well, no, on this one here, there's some dates that you have to, so I think we're still kind of up in the air. We don't know where we want to go. So we need somebody to kind of help us to work to, how are we going to decide where we head? And I think that's where we're at
And
now.
that's not worth getting a consultant for?
No, I think it is.
That is the concern.
But I don't think, we can't get a grant for that, because the grants are only if you have a specific area, there's some specific areas that you have to, that if you're looking to doing certain things, there's
A
certain
lot of these
grants
questions will
available.
get answered by a consultant.
Right.
Is there a study being done at the statewide level?
Is there a study being done at the statewide? I think there is some studies with this act.
Okay,
I
and if
don't remember
so,
what it was
Within
for.
the act,
Yeah.
they're not related specifically to,
I'm just wondering if anything from that statewide study would flow into,
you're talking about two
What
different
we're-
things.
Yeah, we aren't two different pages, so no, there is no study being done.
So I would just say that the implementation project is probably closest to what you're talking about. They're compiling a database all the time. They're working very, very closely with the Agency of Education so that every bit of information flows into those two places so that it's a resource for everybody in the state of Vermont. That's probably what you're talking about more than, what he was referring to are, there are some, as part of Act 46, there are some studies that are ongoing that don't relate necessarily, like,
I was just wondering if there's, so we're gonna get a grant, or potentially.
Not yet.
There's
Eventually.
We can apply
So
for a
it-
grant.
Right, so the kind of questions and things that we would be looking to answer, there must be something going on, that the same thing at the statewide level to
so
determine.
through the two directions I was saying. I will just tell you that because a lot of these questions, we're operating without asking someone to come and give us this feedback. Many SUs have had representatives from either the Agency of Education or the VSBA or the VSA to come in and help them as they're having these conversations. This has been ongoing for a while. And I know they're out night after night going around. So a lot of these questions are being answered by others. We're trying to get these questions answered by ourselves, but we could ask for help if we want. So,
Well, as an example on the application, if we were merging two supervisory unions, there's a transition grant, we would have to apply for that by December 31st, 2015. I don't think we're in the position yet to say we're merging two supervisory unions. You know, it says, like the Reds will no longer be eligible for a transition grant, unless if the vote is not, a successful vote has not occurred before December 31st of this year. We're never gonna get there. My thought was, we
But
need
there are
somebody.
other grants available?
Those are the grants that are available. There are other
No, there's
grants,
other ones.
there's other grant, I know, I'm just saying, these are the two that we have here
Sorry.
with the application. So there are other grants available, but we don't even know what we wanna study yet, or what
Understood.
we're, so my thought was, we need somebody to assist us to kind of give us some guidance to how we get to the next step to determine where we wanna go, so that we then can apply for a grant and get whatever help we need, and so.
Like somebody that would say, looking at your data and everything, you should go down the road of
Right, a
doing
person who can
supervisor, or
invest some time into this and be able to say, here,
that's gonna hurt
here's your options, be able to take the information we had, put it into some kind of format to say to us, this is where I suggest, that we maybe start to look next. So maybe the thing to do, so I'm just thinking out loud, so I may be wrong again. Do we want to ask VSBA if there's if somebody that can come down, they can, maybe at our next meeting, they can come and explain to us what kind of help is available for us to move us forward?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we need to.
Is that appropriate, or are you
well, I
thinking?
think it's appropriate. I know other
Okay.
SUs have done it.
Okay,
So the case of you don't know what you don't know.
right, so maybe we should do that, so, because we actually all here know somebody who's pretty powerful on the VSBA board, maybe,
Laura?
yeah.
Laura's on the VSBA. right?
Yes, I'm
Well,
probably the newest member.
We're gonna
not the
stick Laura and
president.
Emily on them.
We like the feisty new ones.
So, is it okay with the board if Emily and Laura get hold of VSBA and see if they can have somebody come down and talk to us at our next meeting for this, which would be in October?
Yes.
That
What is the
works.
goal?
To have somebody come down and explain to us how they can assist us
Process.
to get into somewhere where we can start applying for grants and moving forward and determining what we're gonna do. Take all the data we've already done, the stuff we've worked on, our values that we will
Yeah.
take care of at the next
Yep.
meeting.
Do we
You
need to
know,
make a motion on that?
I
or
don't think
can
we need to make
just
a
get
motion
thumbs
because
up,
it's
or-
not gonna cost us anything to have them come down and just talk with us, but it,
I have no idea. I haven't talked to anybody about it. But I hope not, but I don't know.
okay, so why don't we make a
I
motion
don't know if
that
people are paying for that.
if there's a cost, that it be covered by the WCSU. Because I think
I
that's.
just don't know.
Yeah,
haven't
no,
done it
and
yet.
that's good. Why don't we just throw it out there that, you know, whatever money be available, that you guys feel reasonable. I mean, if they tell us $1 million, obviously it isn't, but if it's $100 an hour for the guy to come down and mileage, you know, I mean, that's within line of other people, consultants.
Let me just throw out something radical here, not really radical. So we're reaching out to these other SUs.
Mhm.
Would it make more sense to try and have all of us meeting together since we're all close? I'm really concerned about people looking within.
Right.
And
I think we
also
have
things
to
getting
keep
picked
moving
off.
forward because everybody else is looking within, no one else is reaching out.
Mhm.
So I think we are gonna reach out to them. If they're willing to do something, they'll let us know, and we can tell them that we're meeting in October if you
Yes,
have some
invite
interest.
them, yeah.
And if they don't wanna come, that's fine, but
Yeah.
I think we need to keep moving because,
I would agree.
you know, if we're not gonna have marathon meetings and we're gonna get somewhere, I think if we just sit around and wait for something to happen, again, then I think we're gonna have done to us instead of us deciding ourselves.
My point is just, let's invite those SUs to also come and hear what the SBA is saying.
Well, depending on what they say when we do send a letter to them, they may say thanks, but no thanks. They don't wanna meet with us. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, and that could be it too, there may not even be a meeting, I never thought of that. Can't believe they won't wanna come and see us or something.
Well, we've
Well,
had
they
that,
might,
we've
but
had
they
that
might
happen
not.
before when we did tried to do the collaboration between issues anyway. We reached out to all the surrounding ones and only one replied, so.
Well,
We'll
I
see,
think things,
but-
there's a little more pressure now.
Yep, so we'll just, you know.
So, is everybody good with that? Okay, so by consent, if there's nobody disagreeing, we'll, yeah, unanimous consent, we'll reach out and just see if we can have somebody come. Our October meeting should be the fourth Wednesday in October.
October 28th.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on.
Bad for some reason?
Yeah, it's my wife's birthday, she'll kill me.
Oh, she will kill you too. She will kill you.
That's okay.
21st?
Bring it to the meeting.
Just tell her you're taking out the
You wanna make it 21st?
No, make it the 29th, 28th, whatever that. No, let's keep it consistent, she's fine.
That's the fourth. The fourth Wednesday.
Well, we wanna hang on to
Oh.
it.
Hey, can you edit that out?
I'm on your side, Regina.
We have to, and I was gonna try to take 5 minutes and try to talk about that, which, because we have something else we gotta
I just
approve.
brought it up because it's normally the fourth meeting in October that we hold a Wyndham Central meeting
Right,
on
to
budget.
do, well, to start with
direction
the, and the salaries and stuff.
Right.
Right,
Give direction to the superintendent, so maybe we can do,
we
you
can
know,
combine it.
yeah. So, if we're all good with that, and there's nothing, no, I
Can I
think,
just
yep.
suggest, just in case, because I know that they're really, really busy up there, can the 21st be an alternate if the 28th doesn't work, or the
Yeah.
4th?
Yeah, well, let's try,
I'm saying
let's
on one end or
figure,
the other of it.
yeah, let's give a little leeway, maybe, because obviously we'll have to get them to come down, so let's see what we can do, but let's put our requests in like tomorrow.
To the 28th.
Yeah, and then
Tell me what
hopefully
to do.
we're early enough, because again, a lot of other boards took the summer off. And then we'll
Not on
send
this
an
thing.
email out to people and let everybody know where we're at. So is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, thumbs up all around?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry about having to add something else in the agenda, but I figured while we had the executive committee together, Stephen brought to Dover the harassment, hazing, and bullying policy and he suggested that we do it through WCSU. So I said, well, you know, we're having the executive committee meeting anyways. Hopefully he's shared it with almost every board, he said.
Not yet, but we're close.
Darn close, so some of those boards will now have it. But what we would have to do is we would have to make a motion to warn it, and then it gets posted. And then sometime in one of our next meetings, or actually the
Could be
full
in
board.
September.
Does the full board have to approve it?
Well, I don't think so necessarily, but I think we could do it at the September meeting.
So we have the meeting in September, so we can make a motion to adopt it at that time.
I would like to make a motion to warn the harassment, hazing, and bullying policy, which is F30.
Yeah.
Can I see?
Yeah, great, second.
So we have a second, from Jen.
Oh, yeah, I gotta get that right there. Ken.
Ken made the motion.
You don't have to.
Jen seconded it.
From Marlboro.
Did-
Thank you.
Now, do we need to, is there a policy existing that we need to have rescinded when this one becomes effective?
They, yes, this would have the effect, which, just so the board understands, the public
Hey,
understands.
hang on a second,
If
Steve.
this is adopted,
Hang on, everybody needs to pay attention, this is really important.
okay, if this policy is adopted as warned, it does supplant, it does automatically rescind F20, which is harassment, and F24, which is presently hazing.
Right.
And the whole purpose of this recommendation for VSBA and the Agency of Education is to put them all together in one policy, so people don't get confused, and that is gonna be called F30. Originally with Dover, I think I called it F20, that was my error, I've been corrected by the state. So, it's F30, and it would replace, in other words, you replace 3 policies with 1. And originally bullying, if you wanted to look on the websites, is F30.
F30.
Stephen, if this is adopted by the executive board, does that have to be separately warned for every
well,
single board?
I think that the full board, when we adopt it as a full board, if the board so chooses, can request that the district boards consider it under the consent agenda. I think that would be, that would be a way to move these kinds of adoptions along that are really not, you don't have any option about these things
Right,
in terms
yeah.
of language.
No, no, I
So, otherwise, if we were talking about doing something with field trips, that's an option locally, but this one is a state mandated one, so I'm trying to, we've never done it before at Wyndham Central, but this would be a first to do something following that pattern. If it's agreeable to the board, that's what I recommend, because it'll save you some time.
Yeah.
Sir.
We did look at this policy at Leland and Gray, and the only thing that we've talked about at our board is on the first page of the model policy, it also incorporates the model procedures by reference. And we were concerned that leaving that language in there would force procedures that don't fit with individual schools to be adopted. And we, as a board, we try to leave procedure up to our administration rather than saddle them with model. So, I would say we want to think about doing that again if we adopt this policy here.
Well, so
But we
it's,
didn't-
If we adopt
didn't
the
adopt
policy,
procedure.
we don't have to adopt the procedure.
That's theirs.
We
It's
adopt the
administrators.
policy.
But this policy says, the verbiage in the policy says, the model procedures are expressly incorporated by reference as though fully included within this model policy. It does actually adopt procedures the way it's written.
because then on paragraph below says that, the superintendent shall adopt a procedure directing staff.
Right, but then they say, but we have these model procedures that we've given you. I think it ties the hands of our administration a little bit to
Missed
leave
that.
that language in there.
I know that the administration is perfectly comfortable with deleting that paragraph. I don't know where it'll end up with the state on that. I think that this recommendation is a reaction to some of the terrible things that have happened to kids. And, sometimes it's a sledgehammer to catch a gnat, but, that's what's going on here. So I'm perfectly comfortable as a board, if you want to warn this without and delete that
You have to
stipulation,
amend the
make
motion,
make that amendment.
Okay, well, one question before I would make the amendment is, I know
We'll get you-
when we discussed this at Leland and Gray, there was going to be a meeting coming after our meeting of all the principals where they were gonna discuss whether or not they thought that it made sense to, work policy on their own too. Was there sentiment there?
The sentiment from the principals, Bill can correct me, is that they can live with the procedures as recommended. And until we have experience that informs us that they don't work, we're not able to, convince ourselves that we need to differentiate among the school districts on that.
Carol?
Is that correct, Bill?
That's absolutely correct.
I don't know if this is the case, but it may be that there was a set of procedures outlined in the legislation. And because one of the things I remember hearing about this, and this has been an issue for years, was that while we were kind of strongly suggesting that people have these policies and procedures, actually schools were not following through, and they were not doing what was necessary. Hence all of the additional cases of bullying and hazing, et cetera. So it may be, again, I'm not 100% sure, but it may be that there are procedures outlined in the legislation that have to be included in order to meet the letter of the law.
Very good point.
We could, though, then, we could adopt this and ask Stephen to look into that.
Yes.
Let us know, because we could amend it and rewarn it again in September then if we had to.
Correct.
Unless,
Okay.
if you'd like to make a motion, we can't tell you you can't make a motion, or you can't
No.
move to amend the motion, so.
No, I would like to know if it's legislatively directed for those, and, you know, if the principals are comfortable with it.
Yeah, I want to assure you that I did say that at a previous meeting, Leland Gray, and I think Brooke, well, I don't know where I've been. Anymore, I'm sorry.
You've been all
But
over.
the
Yeah, no, that's
principals, you know, the principals did have an opportunity to retreat, and we had one principal specifically reviewing it on our behalf to make recommendation, and we did not make any, you know, there wasn't any discussion that led me to believe that we needed to change anything. But it is true that we should make this a problem if it's a problem in the future, not assume it's a problem at this
That's a
point.
good point.
Exactly.
So is Carolyn's point.
So do you folks want Stephen to find out if the procedures are mandated by legislation, or do you not care about it?
Let's find out.
Okay,
I mean-
so if you could just find out,
There-
Stephen, and
there's
simply
Yeah,
yes or
I
no.
can.
It's not gonna hurt anything that's already happened, because we're just warning it right now anyway.
We can still leave it, or leave it,
Right.
not do anything about it.
Okay,
Right.
so there's a motion on the floor to adopt this by Ken, and Jen seconded it. It's not adopt, it's to warn, I'm sorry. And then it has to be posted, and then 30 days henceforth, we can actually, or 14 days.
10 days.
10 days. So we would move to try to take a few minutes from our retreat in September and vote on it. So is everybody good? Any questions? Any comments? Is everybody ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Carries unanimously. Pretty cool. Okay, moving on. Next WCSU full board, will be a full board meeting, and it'll be September 23rd, 2015 at the TBD. So does everybody know how to get there?
I do.
Can you send
me directions?
I will. You just
Oh,
keep
yeah, I
going
mean,
until you
where
get
is
there.
You can't get that from here.
I thought,
But next
I'll
month.
get that.
It's not final yet, okay.
Okay, I do have some news about that, though. We have a phone call in, and we're receiving a quote from the Grand Summit at Dover, you know, at Mount Snow, to see if we can manage it there. We have met there once before. I wasn't able to do this through connections, but I'm just saying that I
Call
called.
me back.
Yeah, so,
I thought he was here.
Any rate, Meg called today and, you know, gave the details, and we'll get a quote back, and if it's not outrageous, I'll go with it. And we're putting in for 35 to 40. We had 30, what was it, 30 or 35? We went through the list, but we, you know, I think this year we may have a few more, because it's much more interest from the boards regarding Act 46.
Can I, now that you've said that, you just made me think of something.
Okay.
What if there was, I mean, do we know what we're doing at that meeting?
I don't have an agenda yet. I'm
Okay,
waiting to hear
so,
from the
so what if
officers.
that date worked for the
That would be
SBA?
really excellent. Would anybody
I
have?
don't know if it
Oh, that'd be
does.
great.
I don't know if it does, but I'm
Would
just
anybody
saying.
have an issue with the retreat being the VSBA person if we
If-
get them there
if-
for that one?
I think that'd be a
good idea.
Okay, because that might make it
Sure.
interesting.
So I could throw both
And,
those
and
dates.
just as an
Get more
aside,
people out.
It's probably not gonna happen.
right after we first started doing this, years and years ago, we did have a meeting, one meeting at the Grand Summit, and the food was pretty awful, and it's the atmosphere.
Well, I would like
and-
to maybe see if Stratton could do this.
Well, the only reason we decided to go back there is we now have an inside person there, so we're hoping they were gonna be able to take care of it. Is the Stratton Base Lodge in Stratton or Winhall?
It's not the base lodge, we would do the club,
pier.
and I would have to see what the.
Because isn't that in Winhall?
Oh, you can't do it in.
We try to keep it in
It's-
Wyndham
It's
Central.
in Stratton.
stupid.
It's
It's
Stratton.
still in our.
No, it's in Winhall.
It's I guess it's.
Stratton
It's
Mountain,
Stratton.
Stratton
No,
Mountain is
the
not.
the
it's not
town
on
line
Stratton,
for
yeah.
Stratton is actually the center, is on the
Well,
Base
why are we
Lodge.
paying for all the policing? We pay for everything.
Tell you what,
Um,
and give me the phone number, and I'll, I'll see if something
It
doesn't
is
work
like
the other one, it's good to have an alternative,
Okay,
okay?
sure.
I do wanna go back
Nothing
to,
illegal
I think
about
it's really important to invite the people from around us to meet with
Yeah,
VSBA.
yeah, well, let's see what's happening. We don't
You
know
could
what's
include that in
happening.
this letter,
We
right?
can, we
Even-
still can.
We'll be
Right.
able to know, and then, Steve, you and I
Put the
need to
letter
work
together,
on the
we'll
letter.
find it out, yeah.
Okay, so I hate to do this to you guys, I really, really do, but it looks as though we're gonna leave like 20 minutes early tonight.
Yay!
Yeah,
So
I'm
anybody
really
that's
upset
against
about
that, make a motion to just discuss something else. If not, I'll entertain.
Oh, wait,
Oop.
I did, that meeting in Floodbrook, they're trying to get a videotape. And thank you.
And did you have something?
No.
Oh,
It's gonna
anybody else?
Then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Let's get out of here.
I'll second that.
everything.
Everybody will second.
Yeah, I will go over it now.